Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we will be discussing about MCP, Model Context Protocol. What is it, how it works and where it fits into the entire ecosystem. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, which is designed by Anthropic, an AI company, specifically to provide context to LLM models. If I can describe it in a very simple terms, it is a kind of a API specifically designed for LLMs to provide them context with some extra functionality compared to APIs. Now first let's see where it fits into the AI ecosystem. So here we have an Ollama which allows us to serve the model and access it via API endpoints. Simple API, just send the message and get the raw response back from the model. Now the Ollama does not have any UI or anything like that. Now user does not communicate with Ollama directly. It goes via the host. User will provide it input in the host. Host will forward the message to Ollama. Ollama process it and get the response back. So this is a simple communication with model. Nothing integrated here till now. Now when you want to connect the MCP server, you cannot connect it directly to the Ollama here. The host is responsible for managing the MCP client along with the Ollama request response lifecycle. Now let's take an example of an Amazon seller. So here we have a user who has connected to MCP server with the host. One is Postgres server, another is a GitHub MCP server. Each MCP server has its own MCP client maintained within the host itself. When you connect an MCP server to the host, a host must maintain a separate client for each individual MCP server. And the host is also connected to the Ollama where the Llama model is running. When user asks how many total orders do I receive in last 24 hours, the host will receive the query. It forward to the Llama model. Llama model will have the details like host is connected to the Postgres server which has the Amazon database. When a user asks how many orders do I receive in last 24 hours, the query will be directly received by the Llama model here. The model will decide that required data can be found in the Postgres MCP server. The model will call the MCP server here. The host will forward the raw response to the Llama model that this is the execution. The model will review the data and prepare the response for the user's query. Like you have received 200 orders in last 24 hours. This might feel very similar to APIs, and it is, but there are differences. When you are working with an API, you need to write a code for each individual endpoints that you have in the API to utilize it. Let's say you have a 10 different endpoints, so you need to have a 10 different piece of code to get the data from the particular endpoint and utilize it. But with the MCP, that is not the case, and that was the major problem with APIs that this MCP solve. When an MCP server connects to the host via the MCP client can do the discovery phase to understand the available resources, tools or whatever are available into that particular MCP server. Once the information are collected, host will keep this information, and whenever a user prompts something, host will append this information into the prompt and pass it to the LLM. So model knows that these are the available resources that can be utilized to fulfill the user's query as per requirement. The next important thing is the human in the loop. When LLM try to execute a tool call, a person must approve the execution before the execution happen on the server. In the next video, we will do a practical about the MCP. Build a MCP server, connect it with cloud and try to communicate with MCP using the cloud. So you can understand the flow much better in that next video. So do subscribe and turn on the notification to receive the update. Now let's see primitives of MCP. These are the very common primitives of the MCP server. First one is tools. So the tools are kind of executable functions that LLM can invoke. So it can do things like booking an appointment, executing SQL query, running CI/CD pipeline, sending message or something similar, where we need to write something in database or somewhere else. The LLM reads the input schema and description, and based on that and decide when it is appropriate to calling a particular tool to get the required data. The next one is resources, which is a read part of the MCP, which provide readable access to any kind of details like any PDF file, Word document or Excel sheet or something. The third one is prompts. As name suggests, it provides a set of rules and regulations as a prompt to the LLM that LLM has to follow. Prompts are controlled by user, and user can invoke the prompt to provide instruction to the LLM that follow this particular workflow, like onboarding workflow, customer support script, analyze a report template, or perform an analysis on the last couple of Git commits. So these are the kind of very common primitives that MCP server can have. So that is for the introduction part of the MCP. In the next video, we will build a MCP server, connect it to the cloud, and try to access the MCP via the cloud itself. So do subscribe and turn on the notification to receive the update, and let me know in the comment section if you want to see any specific use case with MCP. So that's it for today. Thank you.